Hi folks, thanks so much for taking time to look over our game, the Miskatonic School for Girls. We know these things take a while to play to get a good idea of, and we really appreciate you taking the time. The product that we're sending along in this package is not pre-production quality. This is craft quality. This is the stuff we use to play test in-house. So for instance, the cards, as you probably noticed, are slips of paper printed from our inkjet, sleeved into card sleeves. The boards are one-offs that our graphic designer Jay got done for review copies. Final boards will be sort of that thick cardboard stock that most board games are on. The card quality in the end will be very similar to games like Ascension. In fact, I think we're actually using the same printer that Ascension used. The cards themselves, the typesetting on the cards has not been done. These cards are actually output from our game design database, which is not really a good program for typesetting. So one more job Jay has is to typeset the cards before they go out, but he's been doing it for a while, so they're going to look great. One more thing is the rules. They are in sort of a Word document format. They're also not laid out as final. So once again, thanks for taking a look at our game. We really appreciate it. We could have got you probably better looking stuff in a couple of weeks, but then our Kickstarter campaign would be over, and that, we really like to get these review copies out while our Kickstarter campaign is going, which ends on December 5th. So thanks again. So the story behind this game is kind of interesting. At GAMA, the game industry trade show this year, I was having dinner with some other folks in the gaming industry, and we were talking about deck building games. A lot of the people at the table kind of thought the deck building game platform had been taken sort of as far as it could go. And I made the offhanded comment, without really even thinking about it, that, well, what about a deck building game where you build your opponent's deck? And the whole table got really quiet. And that's kind of when I realized that I needed to make this game. I really wanted to see what would happen when you turned the deck building paradigm on its head that much. So my design goal was to focus on that one element of building your opponent's deck and let the gameplay follow. Many deck building games have a certain feel. Basically, you make your deck better and better during the game and more powerful, and then you score victory points. That making your deck better bit is really compelling and one of the really fun parts about the genre, because even when you lose, you feel like you were close because you saw success as a player. I didn't want to emulate that appeal. Instead, I wanted to take the build your opponent's deck concept and see what kind of game fun that would create on its own. As such, do not expect this game to be one where you watch your deck get better and better. In fact, in this game, your deck gets worse and worse over time. Once the basic game design was done, I looked at it and realized that the sort of generic world I stuck it on wasn't really appropriate. This was a game about losing slowly, so the Miskatonic angles popped out right at me as a good kind of property to put this game mechanic with. And that's when the Miskatonic School for Girls really started to grow. And it was interesting because as the property added value to the game added value to the property. It was really fun. And in the property side, I got to work with Ken Hite, who is a Lovecraft expert, is probably a weak word to use for how well he knows his writings. And so his deep knowledge of the Lovecraft writings really made the game much, much better. And then the artist brought a whole nother angle to it with this sort of very light style of art for the girls and the staff, which has a great sense of humor. I didn't want this game to be a serious game at all. I wanted it to be a fun game experience. I didn't want it to be a particularly mathy game. I wanted it to be a game where you sit around the table and you have fun with your friends. Okay, that's enough blabbing. Let's get on to learning how to play the game. When you set up the game, each player is going to need a deck of 10 starting students. The rules tell you exactly which 10 end up in your starting deck. You can tell where they are, which ones they are by their text box. This ripped out frame means that they're starting students. You take your deck of 10 starting students, you shuffle them up, and then you put them on your playmat where it says deck. Every player starts the game with one playmat. Then every player takes some sort of token or marker and marks their sanity tracker down here at 20. When you lose your last point of sanity, you've lost the game. Now that's what every player does for themselves. You also are going to set up the middle of the table. Once you've set up your own playmat with your deck and your sanity marker, you'll set up the middle of the table. In the middle of the table of the game, there'll be 4 decks of cards. 4 piles. One pile is all substitutes. One pile is all transfer students. Transfer students and substitutes are in piles face up, and all the cards are the same, so there's no need to shuffle them. The pile next to your substitutes is your faculty deck. Your faculty deck contains 2 types of cards. Obviously, it contains your faculty. You'll easily be able to recognize faculty by the card frame because it's unique to faculty. It will also contain events that are specific to the faculty deck. These events all look like the desktop of the principal. So you shuffle this deck, leave it next to your substitutes. This deck over here is your student deck. Your student deck contains, surprise, surprise, students. It also contains a couple of other types of cards. There are some events in the student deck. You'll recognize them because they look like the kids' day calendar. And there are a few cards that represent stuff the kids have in their locker. So once you have those 3 types of cards and you shuffle them all, they all end up in this deck. There are essentially 3 empty spots next to each deck, and those are called the store shelves. Once your table looks like this, you're ready to play. This table is set up for 2 players, but you can play the game with up to 4 players. All right, let's take a look at the very first turn of the game. First thing you do during your turn, after you decide who goes first, is you draw your hand of 5 cards. The first cards you draw are all the ones in your purchase pile if you have any, but since I don't have any there, I draw 5 from my deck. You always draw until you have 5 cards. The next thing you do is you fill the store shelves. The store shelves are the 3 spots in front of each deck. So I take cards from the top of the deck, and I see what is available for me to purchase that turn. Now every card I flipped over here has a cost, and the cost is in the bottom right-hand corner. This card costs 3 friendship points, and this card costs 3 nightmare points. In my hand, in the upper right-hand corner of all the cards, is production. So basically I'm going to use the points in my hand to buy the cards that are on the store shelves. Some cards produce friendship points only, some cards produce nightmare points only, and some cards produce either or. So this card right here that has a 1 and a 1, I have to choose which kind I want it to make. It doesn't get to make both. So the first thing I do is I buy a student for myself. So I am going to spend 5 friendship points to buy Haley Warren over here, who has a cost of 5. So I buy her, and unlike a lot of deck building games, she doesn't go to my discard pile. She goes to my purchase pile, which is face up next to my deck. Then I look at the cards remaining that I haven't spent yet. I have 3 nightmare points. So I'm going to buy Ellie Hazard, who costs 3 nightmare points. Again, unlike other deck building games, I'm not buying this card for me. When you buy faculty, they go to the player to your left, and they go into that player's purchase pile, which means it'll be the first card that opponent draws next turn. Okay, now I look at my hand of cards that I use to buy things, and I see if I have any faculty. You'd be able to tell very quickly by the card frame. I don't have any faculty, so now those cards go to my discard pile. It's important to remember not to put cards in your discard pile right after you use them for production of friendship and nightmare points, but you want to wait until after the classroom phase. So after the first turn, the table looks something like this. All right, so here's how a battle works. Let's say these are my hands for the turn, and I've already bought cards for myself and for my opponent. Well, I look at my hand, and I see that I have 2 faculty and 3 students. The students go to my discard pile, and the faculty go to my classroom, and then we're going to have a battle. So now I've got these 2 faculty, and they are attacking me in the classroom, attempting to drain my house's sanity. The way I deal with them is I'm allowed to draw 1 card from the top of my deck for each of the faculty. So in this case, I get to draw 2 cards from the top of my deck. So I drew these 2. These cards are called BFFs when you draw them in this fashion. And basically they're going to help stop the damage coming to my sanity. Now each Student has a rating of girl power, which is the number in the polo mallet, and resolve, which is the number in the shield. So the first thing that's going to happen is basically, think of it this way, the polo mallet is going to smash the apple. So I have a total of 2 girl power. I can add them up, I can split them up however I want. It's very simple. There's no assigning which one damages which one. So since I have 2 girl power, I now look at the apple, or the health, of the faculty. This one has 2 health, this one has 3. So I'm going to go ahead and defeat the substitute. When I defeat the substitute goes away to my discard pile. Now all I have left to deal with is Herbert West here. Unfortunately, I have no resolve, but Herbert West does 2 sanity damage to me. Had I had any numbers here in resolve, I would lower the damage by that much. So since I don't have any resolve, I lose 2 points, so I take my health tracker from 17 to 16, and I move it down 2 spaces. Once class is over, my BFFs go to my discard pile, as does Herbert West, and then my turn is over. So you keep taking turns until your sanity drops to 0. And once your sanity drops to 0, you're out of the game. Last player left in the game is the winner. One thing that's going to come up in the game is, what do you do when your deck runs out? For instance here, when it's my turn to draw cards, the first cards I draw are from my purchase pile, so there's none left. It's 2, 3, 4. I need to draw 1 more card, I don't have any. It's really simple. You just take your discard pile over here, you shuffle it up, you put it down to your deck, and you draw your 5th card. Sometimes in a game, when you're buying things, you might find that you don't have enough to purchase. Remember, you're only ever allowed to purchase 1 student for your opponent, for yourself, and only 1 faculty for your opponent. But sometimes you'll look at your production and you just won't have enough. That's when the substitutes and transfer students come in. When you don't have enough to buy a staff for an opponent, you can give your opponent a free substitute teacher. This doesn't cost any nightmare points. And if you can't afford a student for yourself, you can add a free transfer student to your deck. Now these are obviously not the greatest of cards, but it's better than not getting anything. Sometimes your shells might look like this at the start of your turn. Well, in that case, it's pretty easy what to do here. You slide over and you fill the empty spot. But up here, you've got 3 cards and there's only 3 slots. So you slide them all over, and this last card gets discarded, and you fill up the front space. So basically, you just keep sliding things over, but when it gets to basically the 4th spot, it gets discarded. Sometimes, when you're holding class and you're being attacked by a couple of faculty, or just 1 faculty, and you draw your BFFs, you might draw another faculty, in this case, this substitute. This faculty does not add in to attack you. Instead, it's called a pet teacher. And while it's terrible that your pet teacher is not going to help you stop damage or give you resolve, you do get to take this card out of your deck. And you get to not only take it out of your deck, but you get to put it into the discard pile of one of your opponents. Any opponent you want, you get to pick. So in this case, you would be left with just 1 BFF defending against these 2 faculty. Most of the time, the keywords on the cards are just there for flavor, but there are 2 exceptions. If you buy a faculty for an opponent that has the keyword aggressive, then that means instead of taking that faculty and putting it into your opponent's discard pile, or your opponent's purchase pile, you put it right into your opponent's classroom, and he has to draw a BFF and deal with it right away. It's kind of like a fast attacker. The other type of keyword that matters is BFFL, which is right there. A best friend for life, after the turn you purchase it, instead of going to your purchase pile, will go right to your classroom and will help defend against any faculty that are there this turn. It's important to remember that a BFFL does not count as one of the cards you draw based on how many faculty are in your classroom. So it's like having an extra defender. And they're usually very good with a lot of power, a lot of girl power, and good resolve. As for timing in the game, there are 4 basic times when things happen that are part of the card text. If there is no bold word at the beginning, then it happens all the time. It's always on, essentially. But there are 4 specific timing on these cards. Defeat. Any faculty that has the word defeat at the start means after you defeat this faculty by using your girl power and squashing that apple, that's when that power goes off. If you don't defeat the faculty, the power does not go off. Some kids have BFF abilities. A BFF ability happens only when you draw the card as a BFF. If it's in your hand as a part of the hand that you use to purchase things, it will have no effect. Pre-class. Pre-class abilities are used when they are part of your hand that you use for buying things. So for instance, this particular character not only provides you with 2 nightmare points, but also gives you this cool ability you can use while it's in your hand. And lastly, there's a survive ability. Survive abilities happen if you don't defeat the faculty. So if you don't defeat Herbert West, then you will have to add a substitute to your discard pile. It's important to note that defeating means squashing the apple, doesn't mean stopping all the damage with resolve. We're going to look at 2 other cards you might get when you fill the store shelves. So in this turn, as normal, you fill the store shelves, you slide over, you flip the card, slide over, and you flip the card. As you can see, there's 2 new types of cards here. This type of card is called a locker card. There are 3 different ones of these in the game, and when you purchase a locker card, you purchase them just like you do students, and they count as your purchase for the turn. However, instead of putting them into your purchase pile, you put them over here into your locker, which is to the right of your playmat. While your card is in your locker, it will have some ability you get to use during the game. The other type of card is an event. There are events in both types of decks, and they have a very unique layout. In this case, the event says, lower the cost of all faculty to 0 this turn. Events have another effect, though, when they come out, which is they clear the store shelf. So all 3 of these cards get discarded, and you replace them with 3 new faculty cards. Remember that the event happens. So in this case, now instead of costing 6, 6, and 3, whichever card you buy this turn is going to cost 0 for you. Remember, there are events in both decks. Sometimes you can string together events as well. You might draw an event the second time. That's fine. That event happens too.
Hey everybody, this is Rob. Thanks for checking out the Miskatonic School for Girls How to Play video. If you have any questions, you can contact us by phone or email. And we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks.